Hello, it's 9 p.m. in At this time to English New Edition for tonight headlines. We have the public-private partnership between Kazaf and Sheraton Hotel. For the international scene, Salva Kiir and Riek Machar seal an important step towards peace. Welcome to our newsroom. The government of the Republic of Djibouti welcomes the announcement by the United Nations Special Envoy for Yemen of the implementation of a truce during which military operations will be halted for a period of 2 months in Yemen and on the Saudi-Yemeni border. Djibouti commends the efforts of the UN Secretary General's Special Envoy for Yemen to achieve this truce, which is in line with the initiative announced by the Brotherly Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in March 2021, which provided for ending the Yemeni crisis. The Republic of Djibouti also expresses its support for the efforts of the United Nations and its organization of meetings aimed at consolidating the truce as well as the implementation of a positive environment allowing the various protagonists of the Yemeni conflict to launch a political process of lasting and comprehensive peace, ensuring at the same time the security and stability of the brotherly Yemen peoples and the whole regions, and urges at the same time the Yemeni parties to take advantage of this opportunity to fully adhere to dialogue and understanding as safe and lasting solutions to the armed conflict in order to stop the suffering of the Yemeni people, restore the unity and the independence of Yemen, and preserve its gains. Within the framework of the government's policy on the social and professional integrations of vulnerable girls and women in our country, the Ministry of Women and Family, through CASAF, Center for Social Actions and Empowerment of Women, initiated a partnership agreement with the Sheraton Hotel last Thursday. The aim of this agreement is to set up a public-private partnership between CASAF and Sheraton Hotel in order to respond to the government's policy on social and professional integrations of vulnerable girls and women who, having failed in a school, have benefited from vocational trainings in the center in the said centers, a real lever towards socio-economic inclusion. The signing ceremony was attended by the Minister of Women and Family, Mona Usman Aden, the General Manager of the Sheraton Hotel, Mario Resort, Mr. Mustafa Fodil, Gael Olivier, Deputy Representative of the UNDP, the representative of the PET of the European Union, Peterson Keisha, and the Director of CASAF, Naima Yonis Hosha, and the coordinator of the UNDP, Hannah Farah, Miss Directors of the DPG, Miss Yasmin Abdul Majid, the advisor of the Minister of Women and Family, Mohammed Ismail Abdullahi, as well as the staff of the Sheraton Hotel. After the usual pleasantries and short exchanges between the two parties, the signing of the bipartite agreement took place, and the ceremony was closed with a convivial coffee break. The Minister of Women and Family, Mona Usman Aden, for her part, has indicated the aim of this agreement is to set up a public-private partnership between CASAF and Sheraton Hotel in order to respond to the government's policy on the social and professional integrations of vulnerable girls and women who, having failed in school, have benefited from vocational training in the said center, a real lever towards socio-economic inclusion. Her Excellency, the Minister Delegate in charge of Digital Economy and Innovation, Mariam Hamadou Ali, has carried out a working mission from 13 to 31 March 2022 in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, accompanied by her close collaborators. This working visit was an opportunity to discover the different entities that ensure the governance of digital economy and innovations of the Saudi Kingdom. The mission began with a visit to the company Elma, specialized in the digitalization of services in in the presence of the Saudi Deputy Minister of ICT. That they continued with the working lunch with the Secretary General of the Digital Cooperation Organization, Dr. Dima Al Yahya. During this meeting, she expressed her wish that Djibouti join the organization as a member state and can benefit from feedback and mutual exchanges in terms of cooperation with others member states. She recalled that Djibouti is a highly strategic country by its geostrategic positioning. During the afternoon, Minister Mariam Hamadou Ali and her delegations met with the governor of the Saudi cybersecurity authorities, Engineer Majid Al-Mazidi, who presented the actions and the genesis of the authorities and the actions undertaken to ensure the security of the kingdom's information system, especially in terms of cyber defense. Drought in Obok. We are in Ulma, a locality not far from the chief town of Obok, where the herders are struggling to feed their herds because of the drought, which remains a nightmare for the nomads inclined to live in these arid areas. Although the region is accustomed to drought phenomena, during the last 2 decades, with the project of water supply networks of Bisidiru, Obok seemed never to suffer from this scourge, especially for the breeders living in coastal areas. Let us recall that this project will definitely solve the lack of water that Obok was facing. It will allow the population to engage in agricultural and livestock project in spite of the realizations of this big project of water conveyance network so much awaited by the Obok population. We were led to note arid zones where the stock breeders have difficulties in feeding their livestock because of drought. Waters, for example, is becoming increasingly scarce. The land is degrading and crumbling, and the soil is becoming more and more fragile. In Obok, many rural populations are affected by the negative effects of the droughts, especially in the sub-prefectures far from the sea. Following Ulma, we visited the 2 sub-prefectures passing through the sub-camp located between Andoli and Adgeno, as well as in other localities. The consequences of the drought are palpable, especially in the last 3 months. According to the testimony of the herders, as you can see, many herders in the 2 sub-prefectures of the regions are heavily affected by this scourge that is the drought. All these arid landscapes show the difficult daily life and the ordeal of the populations living in this locality, and especially those far from the sea. In some areas, such as Adgeno and to Andoli, the nomads have to face conditions and food shortages of extreme difficulties due to an unusually long and severe droughts in these areas. The hope of the pastoralists inhabitants now seems to lie in the seasonal rains. Some rural areas were virtually empty and silent, with no livestock in sight. The drought appears to be widespread and severe, and there is a reason to worry that it will get worse. We are aware of the government's efforts to alleviate our situations, and in doing so, to fight against the thirst for water in order to allow the breeders and farmers to succeed in their lives. But the state must be concerned. The drought is an evil that threatens us, and that we must fight. The efforts that I have made and that you see is that of a will that refuses to die out. It is just that I can't bear the ideas of giving up because of our life depends on it, said Mr. Ali Ahmed Udum. The radio television, in collaboration with the group Abu Ahmed, have organized 2 programs, Musabaqatul Ramadan, which is broadcast on Channel 1 at 6 o'clock in the evening and rebroadcast at 5 o'clock. That program will be currency in 3 languages. This program is presented by our colleague Mahad Abdi Roble, Shakir Alaye Gelle, and Faisal Ahmed Al-Azhari. takes up charges of this jury. The winners of the first episode of Layali Ramadan received their prizes at the magazine headquarters. Al Ahmed Elegance Depends Group Abu Ahmed. The members of the programs and the winners were warmly welcomed by the owners of the stores at Elegance Dependent Group Abu Ahmed, Mr. Abdurrahman Ahmed Taha, owners of the Abu Ahmed Foundations, and all the employees, a number of young people, young men and women who were lucky enough to win prizes after answering the questions that were passed onto the public. Received a prizes of 20,000 lessons on his switch. As part of the programs to promote essential social practices, the general managers of RTD has indicated that these programs of the radio televisions have organized two programs of Musabaqatul Ramadan, which is broadcast on canals, one at 6 o'clock. The members of the programs and the winners were warmly welcomed by the owners of the store. As part of the programs to promote essential social practices, UNFD, in collaboration with the UNICEF, in partnership with the Community Management Committee of Balbala 9, organized a community dialogue on child and young child feeding, followed by a culinary demonstrations for pregnant and breastfeeding women. The Management Committee of Balbala 9 and the pregnant and breastfeeding mothers were present. The objective of this meeting was to provide nutritional education and to discuss the importance of healthy eating and the consequences of food insecurity. Colonel Zakaria Hassan Aden, Chief of Staff of the National Gendarmerie, and Colonel Ruggiero Capodiemento, Commander of the Miadi 16, co-presided this past Sunday a joint closing ceremony of the training in maintenance and restorations of public orders and the anti-terrorist training conducted respectively for the benefit of the personnel of the formed police unit and departmental gendarmes. This training, hosted by the Sheikh Musa Training Centers, started on February 5 and March 6, 2022, and provided by Carabineros instructors coming from a CSP, Center of Excellence for Police Unit for Stability, and the Investigations Unit for Excellences of the Carabiner, the RC the Special Operations Group. These training are part of the cooperation between the Gendarmerie of Djibouti and Arma der Carabinieri and aim to strengthen the capacity of the personnel of the National Gendarmerie. The ceremony started with the practical demonstrations of the UPF taken up by the team of the program, followed by the broadcast of the two clips summarizing the two training. At the end, the military chief and the senior officers present gave certificate to the trainees of the two training whom they did not fail to congratulate their seriousness and their assiduity during all this training course. In turn, the two instructors received from the chief from the hand of the Chief of Staff, Colonel Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, present as token of thanks. As part of the associations of the deaf and hard of hearing people, in collaboration with the management company of the container terminal of Dorale, launched last night at the King Fahad Sports Complex the championship of football for youth with special needs. For the opening match, it was the team of Bulaus, that of Balbala, that was scheduled in front of the jubilant crowd. Bulaus won at the very end of the game. The objective of this championship, which will soon be relocated in the interior regions, is to detect talent and then form national teams capable of representing the countries in international competition. The event was attended by the Secretary General of the SGTD, Eid Ahmed, the Director of Sports of the Secretary of State for Sports, Abshir Ali Hassan, the Director of Schools of Deaf and Hard Hearing, the persons in charge of sports of the handicap, Abdurrahman Abdi Farah, known as Lao, as well as former players, parents of students, and other guests. For his part, the director of sports, Abshir Ali Hassan, said that the objective of this championship, which will soon be relocated in the interior regions, is to detect the talents and then form a national team capable of representing the country in international competitions. The Ramadan, the religious attaché affiliate to the Embassy of Saudi Arabia in Djibouti, organized a Friday in the locality of Sagalu in the Tajora region as a ceremony dedicated to the distribution of food to 100 families as part of the project of the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdul Aziz Al Saud. The ceremony of distribution of this food aid took place in the presence of a delegation of the Ministry of Muslim Affairs of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, representative of the religious attaché, as well as the sub-prefectures of Lak Asal, Abdul Qadir Ali Udum, and many notable. These initiatives reflect the depth of fraternal relations and joint cooperation between Djibouti and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, as well as the solidarity of King Salman bin Abdul Aziz Al Saud with the most vulnerable segments of the population. It should be noted that 100 poor families in the locality of Forage and Sagalu have benefited from this food support, consisting of rice, sugar, flour, or oil, dates, tomatoes, and pasta, bringing the total number of families benefiting from the project in the region of Tajura to 2,070 families. The medical hospital centers of Tajura organized a blood donations day. This activity was led by the head doctors of the region, Dr. Ibrahim Dimbio, and his team. They were supported by a team from the National Blood Transfusion Center that came from Djibouti especially. They were in charge of the collections and the collections of blood in the health respects. The blood collections is a noble act that allows everyone to voluntarily present themselves in order to donate blood to other neighbor. It is important to know that this action, which is personal and voluntary, is above all human. It is necessary to not a craze of the populations which are moved massively to make gift of the invaluable liquid which will make it possible to save the life of the pregnant woman, the accident victims, the children of the low ages, or still any persons in situations of lack of directions in our hospitals. The president of the regional council, Umar Hussein, came with his staff, has given the example first. Also present, the acting prefect, Habib Jilani, the men in uniforms, namely the firemen of the port, the gendarmerie, the policemen, as well as many volunteers were able to show their generosity in giving blood. The chief doctors of the region emphasized the need to organize days like this and thanked all the volunteers who were willing to give the precious liquid source of life. This first event of its kind will not be the last, to reassure Dr. Timbio during his speech. A joint operation by the Djibouti Coast Guard and the National Navy rescued an overloaded boat carrying illegal migrants. Indeed, the Galba type boat was carrying 150 individuals, 14 men and 6 women, all of Ethiopian origin, was rescued off Godoria by the Maritime Surveillance Patrol teams. In the framework of this operation, 3 Yemeni smugglers were arrested for their involvement in human trafficking and will be brought to justice. The migrants were directed to the Directorate of Operations of the Djibouti Coast Guard located at the fishing port, where upon their arrival they were provided with humanitarian assistance in water and food. They were then handed over to the national police in order to be repatriated to their countries of origin. The investigations was entrusted to the Brigade of Research, Investigation and Judicial Affairs of the Coast Guard, while the boat was placed under seizures pending decisions of justice. This operation is a new testimony of the permanent commitment and the excellence of the collaboration between the two marine institutions, which constantly watch over the security and the national maritime safety. The stadium of Obok, whose football files has been grassed since recently, was moved by a crowd of young people who came to attend the closing of the football championship of Obok. On the program, the parade of teams engaged in this championship and a breathtaking match that opposite the club of the city of Pnid to the team of Prefecture. Finally, the victory won to the Prefecture Football Club, which thus became the champions of the season during all the matches of the championship. The tireless and irrepressible president of the youth of Obok, Musa Hassan Haisama, alongside the president of the Regional League of Footballs of Obok, Hussein Ali, has spared no efforts to make this tournament successful. Participating in these finals were the prefect Abdul Malik Muhammad Banuita, the president of the regional council Muhammad Hamad Ismail, and the vice president of the regional council Abdul Umar of Tajarrah, the president of the regional football league of Obok, and his counterpart in Tajarrah, Said Buha Kamil. For the international scene, thanks to mediations by neighboring Sudan, President Salva Kiir and Vice President Riek Machar signed a key military agreement on Sunday, April 3, as part of the 2018 peace agreement. The peace process appears to have taken a step forward. One of the key points in the South Sudanese peace agreement concerns security agreements, which should have been implemented more than 2 years ago. This is the creation of a unified army, which is at the heart of the peace agreement, but also a source of blockage. It is now a done deal. The provision signed this Sunday's Sunday forecast Salva Kiir's 14% to the opposition. The appointment should take place in less than a week. This agreement signed also provided that following the formations of military positions in the South Sudan. And to close up this edition, more than 500,000 people have returned to Ukraine since the start of the Russian military operations. The Ukrainian Interior Ministry announced on Sunday the offices of the High Commissioner for Refugees counted on Saturday 4 million Ukrainians who have left for abroad since the outbreak of the conflict on 24 February. 38,555 more than the previous day. Europe has not seen such a flood of refugees since World War II. The UN's International Organization for Migration said about 205,500 non-Ukrainians have also fled Ukraine, sometimes finding it difficult to return to their home countries. This is it for the news. Thanks for watching us. Have a good evening.